I do think there's a great bit of grandstanding here in which both sides actually draw their positions and make it clear on the EU side that the EU will insist on level playing field obligations, competition laws and similar provisions. And the UK makes it clear that it will not submit to EU law, in particular not in a form of dynamic alignment, where when the EU changes its, the UK would still be bound even by those changed new rules. Quite a lot of the statements do not really seem to refer to the statements of the other parties that are actually made in negotiation documents. So, for example, if you take the draft mandate that the Commission drafted, at the moment it's at the level of a proposal. So one of the purposes of the UK's strong stance at the moment, for example, is to counteract pressure that is exercised by some member states to make level playing field obligations even stronger, to demand even stronger alignment from the UK, and to preempt those moves before the mandate is finalised at the end of the month on the EU side.
OK, well, you were talking about some of the pressure that's been kind of applied by some member states. Now, France has definitely been taking a much tougher stance than other countries when it comes to these negotiations. But do you think the EU risks fracturing its response when it comes to Brexit as these talks actually finally do get underway later on? Can it maintain a unified position?
I think in those talks, there is the risk that different member states will have different interests, and it will be difficult to maintain unity. But I think the important thing to point out here is that disunity on the EU side is not in anyone's interest, because if the EU does not maintain unity, there simply will not be a trade agreement, because the EU won't be able to agree to one because it's not united. Member states need to be on board. So keeping all of the member states more or less on board and keeping divergences small is in everyone's interest here.
It may be in everyone's interest, but also then what about the UK in that respect? Because it does seem, by what it said today, that it doesn't really seem in any mood for compromise. And so if it doesn't want to compromise, how much more likely is a no-deal Brexit?
So a no-deal Brexit remains a possibility. But I think we need to be aware that at times it feels like we're also attacking straw men, because the thing that the UK is most against is dynamic alignment, an obligation to follow even future EU rules. In a lot of areas, that's not even what the EU is asking. The EU wants commitment to rules, and they won't necessarily be supervised by the Commission, but by independent UK agencies. And I can see the UK agreeing to those obligations more readily than to dynamic alignment. So I think the devil will be in the detail, and there is the possibility of a delay. There is a possibility of the two sides coming together, but them not coming together remains a possibility as well.